Hey, welcome to a foreigner in the Philippines. Well, it's strange. I'm out on my walk again and I heard that fire. You see how far that is away, and yet I heard it before I saw it. That crackling really is very loud. Well, I've got my usual complement of dogs. I think it's either 6 or 7. If I have Rado's bully with me, then it will be 7. If not, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh gosh, I got the little mother with me today, but she won't last. Or it doesn't usually. So I'm sure I can't be the only one that's finding so much time to spend doing things which I don't usually have time to do. Well, like coming out for a walk like this. I come out for a walk and I reminisce and I meander and wonder about things. We are in a unique place at the moment. If you have taken the time to look at any of the history, remember it's said that anyone who doesn't know history is doomed to repeat it. Now, at the moment, the coronavirus is raging throughout the world. So what's the history? Well, the history can go back to several places, but the one that was the last to... there's our bully. The pandemic that nearly made it unnecessary to have any pandemics anymore, because there wouldn't be any civilization. Yes, it was that bad, was the 1918. The world had already been ravaged by a world war. And what happened then was that the flu came about, and it was so incredibly infectious that it spread like wildfire. Now, the problem was that troops were being sent to various parts of the globe in their hundreds, and what you had was maybe a few on a troop ship going to join the war effort, and there would be maybe, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 men would be crammed into a troop ship. And they did this knowing that there were some sick men. Put them down into the place where the troops are bunked, and they're in very, very tight quarters, and probably more than they should be. And it didn't take long for a few sick men to make the entire complement of soldiers were sick on arrival. And then that was with a boat. If it was a train, they would be cramped up and would be seeking at every stop to get out and at least stretch their legs and be able to breathe some fresh air. And in doing so, they spread the flu. Well, you can go online to YouTube like I did, and you can see that story, and it's very well documented, so you better be ready to keep your lunch down. It smacked of what is happening right now. Back then, and see if you don't recognize this, back then infection was so fast that nurses who were okay in the morning when they started their early morning shift, and by 6 o'clock they'd be lying down next to patients who were already getting ready to die. It was that bad. Now maybe we don't know who is going when. Let's face it, nobody knows when they'll die, but this is a unique situation that all of us are actually faced with the possibility that we may have to prepare ourselves to meet our Maker. Now, it affects different people in different ways. I have a friend, Jeffrey, in the UK, in the north of England, and the north of England are traditionally friendly people. And Jeffrey tells me that in going out now, where people are facing up to the reality that they may become infected and and suffer an early passing, that people are being very kind to each other. In other words, sometimes the worst can bring out the best in people. And they even have a channel or a website where if you go on and register with them, they will inform you of anything that's going on in the area. And we're talking about very local now. And they are there to help. So if it is that there is some elderly person who doesn't have support, well, they can get a volunteer to go around and help. So we're faced with this. How are we going to proceed? And there's no question that this virus is possibly going to be as bad as the 1918 pandemic, which some actually believed was going to wipe out civilization. That's how bad it was. So, are we there? And if so, don't we need to be addressing many things? So once you start into that and get into that place in YouTube, and I'm pointing this out not to be a downer, not to make everybody feel like giving up, but to hopefully to inspire people to fight for their fellow man. And once you start, as I say, you find yourself in that place in YouTube. As you know, it goes from one thing to another. So if you start out looking for particular kind of music, you'll find other particular kind of music. And if you're looking at boxers, then you'll find different boxing matches and famous boxers and who was the fastest, quickest, hardest. And you'll find yourself in, as they say, in Boxing Alley or Music Alley, Tin Pan Alley, or So if you go and you're already looking at the pandemic of 1918, when so many people passed, you might also find some of the movies, some of the documentaries about the Second World War and what happened. So 1918 would have given you something that was touching on the First World War. And then if you only have to open one on the Second World War and you'll be in War Alley. And once you're there, you will find the Holocaust. And the Holocaust has some relevance if you have just been looking at the 1918 flu pandemic, when so many people lost their lives. Millions of people lost their lives. But in a way, it was, as it is now, a natural, unnatural thing right there. But of course the Holocaust, where the Third Reich, the Germans under Hitler decided that the Jewish people didn't have a right to live, and they set about what they eventually called the final solution, in which they worked out how most efficiently to kill people. Well, in a way, the virus is doing that, isn't it? It's worked out how most efficiently to infect people and possibly kill them. And depending on what you do, depending on what we do, you may speed it up or slow it down. And the idea of staying in your home